Forcing children to change in front of each other for gym is sexually abusive, and this is a hill I will die on. When I was in middle and high school, one of the greatest sources of trauma I have ever endured was being forced to change in front of the other girls in locker rooms. They would make fun of my body relentlessly throughout that entire time. Not only was I the nerdy kid, but I basically had the body of a 11-year-old until I was 16 and went through a major growth spurt where I went from completely flat-chested to 32dd in the span of a single summer. So, my gym experience went from being made fun of for having a child's body to being accused of getting implants and further ridiculed the rest of my school life. Because it was solely my word against that of 8 other girls, the administration did nothing to stop it, even though the rumors spread like wildfire throughout the entire school. It's worth mentioning that I was extremely embarrassed by how fast my breasts grew, so I wore extreme baggy shirts to try to hide them. However, those attempts to hide them were moot thanks to the locker room before gym. The worst incident crossed the line into full-blown sexual assault. 4 of the more popular girls circled around me and violently poked and squeezed my breasts, to the point where it was incredibly painful and they hurt for several days. It was some weird test to see if they were real or implants. I was molested by a male adult as a 7-year-old child and, to be completely honest, the abuse I suffered from my peers that I just described was every bit as traumatizing as that. In a way, it was even worse because there was no escaping it. At least when I told my parents about the abuse from the adult, it was dealt with and I never had to see him again. With the abuse from my peers, I had to suffer for years. Some of you might argue that was an especially shitty crop of girls. Not every locker room experience is like that. Yeah, but hey, the administration didn't believe me because it was my word against everyone else's, so I had to go through this shit for 6 fucking years despite making literally 8 different complaints. Quite frankly, it shouldn't take a seriously traumatic scenario to justify the idea that children shouldn't have to strip in front of people unnecessarily when they're not comfortable. See, if you think locker rooms abuse is rare, you are living under a rock. Honestly, I gotta say I genuinely don't see how anyone, besides pedophiles getting off on it, could stand by the idea that we should continue to systemically force children to strip in front of each other. Edit. Oh Lottie, thanks for all the awards. I remember when me and my co-workers were 16 to 18 and hearing them talk about another girl, freshman, having a thick bush and laughing about it, so yeah, I'm with you. You think changing in front of others was disturbing? Try the forced showering requirement after gym class. There were other peers I knew, even I had done it, who would wear their PE clothes in addition with their regular clothes and would rather deal with overheating themselves than to ever strip down to underwear in front of the people they didn't want to share a period with. Of course, during the winter, it was a neat way of staying warm. But spring and close to summer, some people had PE at 5/6 periods. Imagine suffering under 3 layers just to avoid being body shamed. Nobody made fun of me in the locker rooms, but I was still super self-conscious and usually found a corner with no one in it to change. I'm a guy, BTW, and body image issues are not talked about nearly enough with guys, especially young boys. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Changing was only bad for me in primary school, especially after swim class. They always kept asking me why I turned away or hid while changing, because we all look the same, don't we? But they didn't get it, I was just insecure. Now, in high school, everyone keeps to themselves, especially after swim class. We even hold up towels for each other to change easily. I'm so glad it's an unspoken agreement between the girls in our class. When I was in primary school, all the boys had to change in front of each other, with the female teacher watching us to make sure we didn't misbehave. High school was always hard and the locker rooms made it worse. My school just ended the forced shower after a PE teacher got in trouble for making the girls walk naked from the showers across the locker rooms into her office so she could touch students to see if they actually showered. She still got to keep her job and lurk about, just not touch the underage school kids. In high school I was able to take a gym class at 7 a.m. period 0 so no one would come, and I would come to school in my gym clothes and only have to change into my school clothes after. The teacher for this class didn't want to teach it, so we just did 90s aerobics videos. Which was awesome. I agree, I used to change in the bathroom stalls because I was so uncomfortable. Schools should absolutely add changing stalls and rules about nudity in public spaces. I'm sorry that happened to you. Wait, people strip naked while changing clothes? I get that when you go to the shower, but you didn't mention that. In my school you basically strip down to your underwear if it was a hot day and dress up your gym clothes from there, not full-blown naked. Were you forced to strip down naked? It just sounds very alien to me that you have to strip down naked. It's one of the things where children are disregarded by the school system. Children need to change in school. Throw them all in a room, I guess separate them by gender. Children need to eat in school. Find the cheapest option. Children being bullied? Well, too bad. Children have problems with the teacher? We don't care unless all the parents complain. The theater kids who are always changing in front of each other in the green room like I. Me being the only openly gay guy made locker rooms pretty bad. Yet I was extremely uncomfortable with getting changed in front of people and was threatened to be failed in PE if I didn't. Teacher was really weird. I honestly think my mental health has gotten drastically better after being out of school. Teacher didn't pull me aside or anything, just straight out told me he was going to fail me in front of the entire class. Your school didn't have stalls in the girls' room? That's wild to me. A lot of the girls changed in front of each other, but half of us used the bathroom/shower stalls. Sorry about your school being dumb. I'm sorry, but you changed in front of others. I always went behind the curtain. However, I had an experience similar to yours. The popular girls would change in front of one another, whereas I preferred to change behind the curtain. It was my friend and I who did it. She developed early, so she had big boobs at like 11. I was just fat and didn't like people looking at me. The popular girls would flip our curtains and either gawk at my friend for having big boobs or make fun of me for being fat. One day, my friend and I told our teacher, and she literally rolled her eyes and said, "They're just having fun. Live a little." So my friend and I decided to change in the bathroom instead of the locker room. The locker room is where attendance is done, so we'd be marked tardy every gym class and get points docked. It's been 13 years and I'm still at awe at how shitty that was and how an adult really thought that was okay. I agree wholeheartedly with this. Used to get picked on all the fucking time when changing for swimming since I had large breasts, a hairy bush and a weird looking fanny. Their words, not mine. I had to fucking shave everything since I was 10 years old for fear of getting picked on by the girls in the school changing room. When I was in middle and high school, being forced to change in front of the other girls in locker rooms, they would make fun of my body. This is a hill I will die on. I'm a 53-year-old man, and I'll die on that hill with you defending your position. I still get uncomfortable thinking about when I was 14 years old in high school locker rooms. I was lucky enough to never be a target like you were, but I watched others get tormented, and I lived in fear of becoming a target, and there is just no legitimate reason that utterly messed up situation exists. It's like a recipe for premeditate mention torture to children in the most awkward stage of their entire life, puberty. And I remember overhearing high school girls talking smack about an ever so slightly overweight large-chested high school girl we all went to classes with. I hated it at the time, and it just made me cringe then, and it still does. It is kind of a departure from your original point, but a few years ago when there was that cultural war over gendered bathrooms and women would say they didn't want to have to poop in front of a person with a penis just because he claimed that day he was a woman, I kept telling everybody the answer was clearly private bathrooms. I don't want to pee or poop in front of other guys or women, period. I don't give a hoot whether it is a cisgendered guy, a gay guy, a transgendered man, a straight woman, a lesbian. None of that makes one bit of difference to me. My issue is the privacy. Heck, I don't even like it when there is a large gap in the door to the stall that people peer at me through, figuring out if the stall is empty or not. And that gap is just bad design. A strip of metal 1 inch wide that covers the gap when the door is closed would last a lifetime and cost $1.